Welcome to What's Your Next Move, the podcast for peak performers who are making things happen but are running into roadblocks that prevent them from getting what they want. Whether you work for someone else, you're an entrepreneur, thinking about starting your own business, or at a point in your life where you just can't make the move from where you are to where you want to go, you're in the right place. This podcast is all about answering one question: what's your next move? And helping you harness your power so your next move is the one that changes your life. I'm your host and resident provocateur, Arlene Battisil, and I want to know, what's your next move? Hi there, I'm Arlene Battisil, your host and resident provocateur, and I have a very, very special guest with me today, Kimchi Chow. She has got a story that probably none of us have ever heard before and certainly have not experienced. And it's one of the reasons that I invited her to be on the show. And she'll be sharing that with us in just a few moments. But it is really interesting that out of that experience and the path that she traveled through her life, that she ended up at a point where she ended up doing something that is very much needed and welcomed in a particular community, and has found a tremendous amount of success doing what she's doing, where she is today, and also the many things that she's done and had success with along her life's journey. So Kimchi, thank you so very much for being with me today. This is the one interview I've most been looking forward to in the past week. So thank you for taking the time to be with me.
Thank you, Arlene, for inviting me here. And I am honored to share my experience with your listeners.
Beautiful. Well, let me just talk a little bit about Kimchi and give our listeners a bit of background on her. Kimchi is the first Asian coach for Asian women and immigrants. And for Kimchi, the experience of growing up in Vietnam and then living for 40 years in the United States left her feeling, as she calls it, inauthentic and materialistic, unable to reconcile the cultures of East and West. And she had to find a way to deal with the stress of balancing careers in high tech, real estate investing, and running a family business while raising 2 children with her husband. I'm not going to get into more details of her background because there is so much and there's such richness in it. And I want Kimchi to share with us what those experiences were. But to begin with, Kimchi, will you talk a little bit about what you're doing right now, and then talk to me about your experience in your careers in high tech and real estate investing, and also running your family business while raising your children with your husband?
So I'm currently a coach, a life coach and relationship coach for Asian women. I chose to serve that group because I am Asian, and there is no other coach out there that claim to serve that audience, the Asian women.
Mm-hmm. And in that particular audience, and when you say there's no one else out there, what was it that you have found along the way in your own journey that has brought you a place, to the place where this is a population that you want to serve? Because certainly there is a huge demand for what you're doing, but no one has provided this to that particular population. What are the unique challenges of that population that you were addressing in your coaching with them?
Yeah, the unique challenge for this group is that we think that is a part of our culture and there is no way to change it. It's like I talk to friends who experience difficulties and challenges between the cultural conflicts and the differences between Western world and Eastern world. And most of them say, Kimchi, whatever you are offering is needed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be hard because it's a part of our culture.
Right.
It's very hard to change it. It's extremely, extremely difficult. And I talk to non-Asian as well, and they just shrug their shoulder and say, well, it's a part of your culture. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to change. And I've been thinking about this idea to just serve Asian women only or expand maybe in the future would serve Asian men.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to start out with Asian women, it's something that I experienced it myself, right? And I was struggling with that idea to step out and say, hey, I am serving you all because we do have some challenge that we need to work out, right? And for almost a year or 2 years, I felt like something stuck in my throat that I could not speak out. I said, what is that? So I went to see doctors and things like that. And there's nothing showing up. I did not have any problem with my throat. But every night I feel like something stuck, like someone's pressing, on the, like an Adam or something, Adam part, that I could not speak out. And until I talked to another coach that, connect me to the higher self and to say, yeah, that's a part of you struggling with, because you don't know whether you should stand up and stand out to represent your community, your the people that you want to serve as Asian women. Do you want to speak out, the things that you are suffering, or maybe you just be, just to be a role, to fit in a mold, that be quiet, depressed on your emotion and not speaking out. And I say, oh, wow, I'm experienced that. I'm experienced the thing that I want to teach my client to speak out and step up.
Right.
And, after that session, I work out all of the emotional issue that hold me back. And I decide, at that time, I ask myself question and say, would I regret if I don't go forward with this decision? To step out, to claim that, yes, Asian women, we do have problem and we need to fix it, right? And so I ask myself, say, would I regret? And every time I ask that question, I say, yes, I will regret, because this is an opportunity for me to step up. And this is the reason I experience the difficulty in my life and in my relationship, so that I can see how I can solve it to others, other women.
Now, when you have talked about, I guess you would call it a cultural divide between the East and the West, this would apply to not only a person who is coming from another country in the East and coming to the West and experiencing the vast cultural differences there, but even for someone who is native to the U.S. or anywhere in the West, there would still be cultural differences there, correct? Because it would be the culture that is being passed on through the family who had originated in the home country and then come to the United States or the West, that the cultural values that are being brought with them, that are being passed down to each generation, is there something uniquely different about when a person first comes to the West and has the challenge of the East-West cultural divide versus someone who is actually from the West, who is, in this case, Asian, and is going to be experiencing that cultural divide? Can you talk about those differences?
Yes. I think when we just came here, we only knew one culture, right? Which is the West, the East. And when you when you are forced to adapt to the Western world, you have a choice of, take it or leave it. It is just like learning another language, right? At home, we would speak our mother tongue.
Mm-hmm.
And in school, we would need to learn how to speak English.
Right.
So it's, to me, it's like, changing coat or wear a hat or, just put it on to be able to adapt to the environment at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I experience, I'm an immigrant, a refugee and immigrant. So I experienced that is when I show up at work. I go to work. I work for an American company, and I speak English over there. And I was an engineer and manager. So at work, they are encourage us to speak out, right? To show some initiative. So I did that. But as soon as I get home, as soon as I take out my shoes, because in Asian country we took our shoes, right, to get inside the house and to wear the slipper, to walk around.
Right.
As soon as I took out the shoes, which is represent work or which is represent the Western world, I morph it into my old self, an Asian woman. And I behave exactly like an Asian woman as expected. I was not powerful. I was not encouraged to speak when nobody's asking my opinion. And I was very, very quiet. So it's like night and day. Kimchi is night and day, depends on where she is at.
And whether or not she's wearing her shoes.
Right. Right.
The shoes are a very significant transition.
Yep. So, that was my experience. And
in the act of taking off the shoes and, in a sense, taking off the West and coming back into the East and the culture of the East, you, as a woman, are now in an environment where there are cultural norms and values that for you as a woman, did they require you to behave a certain way? Or perhaps to this day, do they require a woman to behave in a certain way? And is it gender specific that women are expected to be a certain way because they are women?
Are you asking about the Asian expectation?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Your in your native culture, where if you're taking your shoes off and then you are no longer powerful and you no longer have a voice, what is it about the culture that ultimately led to you not feeling powerful or not being able to be powerful or to have a voice? What is it about the culture that's how this ended up?
Yeah, in an Asian family, a traditional Asian family, the father is the head of the household, who has utmost voice, who will decide everything. Next is not the mom, but the son, the oldest son.
Oh.
And then after all the sons would be the mom. And then the order of the daughters. So depend on where you are at, that's the hierarchy, the family hierarchy of power and authorization in an Asian family.
And so when you are coming from a culture that this is the hierarchy of the family and the expectations around who has the say and the power in the family, you go from the East and come to the West where, at least on the surface, it appears that there is slightly more equality between men and women. How does the family begin to adapt to the fact that the women in the family are out in the workplace and are having potentially professional positions, management positions, executive positions, where they are expected to lead and they are the people who are in power? What kind of conflict does that create within that that family that has come from a culture that has this type of hierarchy.
Yeah, there are some challenges for women at work.
Mm-hmm.
If she has a job, and when she come home, she still had to serve the parent-in-law, and the husband as if she's not working. If she's not able to do that, she would need to provide a way to substitute her, which is, hire a maid. And some Asian men, they would not allow that. They say, nope, I want you to cook and clean for me. I don't want any other woman to do that.
Right.
And sometimes the parent-in-law, especially the mother-in-law in an Asian country, even in an Asian family, she's very, very picky. And I feel sad for them, because that's how she was suffering at the beginning. She did the same thing. She was one time a daughter-in-law, right?
Right.
And then she had to be a servant to support the husband's family, from the parents to the husband's siblings even.
Wow.
And she put herself last. She is the last person would have a meal or would go to sleep. She would be the last one, and would be the first one who wake up to do other things, to take care of everybody.
Right.
And that, my husband shared with me that's happened to his mom. But his mom is not working. His mom was not working.
Right.
So when I came here and I went to school and I graduated, I worked and things like that. From time to time, my husband compared myself to his mom. He said, my mom would do this. My mom would take care of the family. My mom would cook and clean for the family.
Right. And did you feel, Kimchi, that everything that you did outside of the home, outside of the culture of your family, that you going out into the world of work where you were independent of all these other things, where you were achieving or accomplishing things, how did you feel about all of the work-related accomplishments and the level of responsibility and power that you had relative to being in the home, providing service to everyone in your family? Did you feel that there was a way that you were diminished, or that everything that you were doing outside the home was not as significant or meaningful or as important as what you were expected to do at home?
Yeah, I did thought about that. I thought about that, and I tried twice. I had a good career as an engineer, and I look at other people. I say, wow, I have 2 children, and I felt partly of myself felt guilty. And from time to time, my parent-in-law would say, "Why don't you stay home and take care of and take care of the family and raise your children? I think your husband's salary is enough to support you guys." And so I try it. I said, okay, I will quit my job to stay home and take care of my children. I tried for 6 months and I could not stand it. So I said, at that time I know that, okay, I'm not a typical Asian woman who can stay home and take care of the kids. It drove me nuts. Okay. And I said, okay, I just had to accept myself that I'm not like other Asian women who can be a housewife.
Right.
who can just take care of the kids and do the housework and things like that, and will be happy. I say I would not be happy. So
Mm-hmm.
I've learned that, and I went back and applied for another job and do that, and I did it twice to test
Mm-hmm.
myself to see have I changed. Is that something that I can change? I can do,
Mm-hmm.
and every time I say nope. This is who I am. I'm the type that want to go out and do something, work with
Mm-hmm.
people, work in something, involve my mental ability,
Mm-hmm.
so I just accept it. And whenever I hear friends who compare, me to other Asian women, I said, well, I'm not that type.
Mm-hmm. And when they do that comparison, Kimchi, are they doing it with, are they being judgmental when they're saying that to you? Do you feel that it's judgmental?
In a way, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But because they don't know any better.
Right. And
Again, this is a cultural thing, right?
right.
Nobody say, hey, it is time for us to change, to do something different, because we no longer live in our country and things have changed tremendously. It's no longer women stay home and take care of the kids. It's no longer a woman doesn't have to work outside the home.
Mm-hmm.
So, so that's the reason. That is the reason that I want to speak out to address these mindset,
Mm-hmm.
these ideal Asian women. What does the ideal Asian woman look like?
Right. And Kimchi, in your thinking about what you wanted to do with coaching the population that you want to serve, that you most want to serve, that most need what you have to offer, there's two approaches. One being trying to deal with the cultural aspects of this that are so old and so ingrained, and to try and overcome the cultural influence. That would be one approach, as opposed to another approach that is just about each individual woman and is the idea to try and offer her a more fully realized and satisfying life that goes beyond what it means to just take care of everybody in her life. Is that your approach, where it's really about how do I help each individual woman become more a part of the equation of her life?
Yeah, the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some people they are happy to serve. They are
Mm-hmm.
happy to stay home, take care of family, raise children, serve the husband. That's great for them.
Mm-hmm.
But some other women, just like me, that doesn't fit in that Asian mold,
Mm-hmm.
then it's time for them to recognize that, and
Right.
I would help them find their core values. What do they really want to do with their life?
Mm-hmm.
What they are passionate about, and ignite that passion, and
Mm-hmm.
show them the way that they can get out of that traditional and create a life with power, freedom, and choice.
Mm-hmm.
Choice is very important. We always have choice every single day, every single moment,
Right.
right? Yeah, to help them recognize that whatever the choice that they make is based on their value, based on their taking ownership of their choice, and
Mm-hmm.
not based on the shame or guilt, right? Because if your choice is based on those, you will be very resentful.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I have so many thoughts as I'm hearing you talk, and one of the that occurs to me is when you are doing your coaching with women, do you always run into the issue or run up against the cultural norms, if you will, with a woman who is searching for these other things in her life, additional fulfillment? Is it always the case that you run into a conflict where the woman who is yearning for more things in her life is then going to be dealing with the impact on her relationship to her husband and her family and the in-laws? Is that a big part of what happens in the coaching, where you have to deal with that part if she is yearning to have other things in her life?
So far, the people that come to me as my clients, they have that support system. They actually, their husbands are very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
So, so the thing is, I help them get out of that mindset of obligation. Say it is time for you to take charge of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because she would go back and forth. It's like, oh, but I should do this because, I'm Asian woman. And I always drive her back, say, what makes you happy?
Mm-hmm.
What makes you happy? Are you doing it for yourself, or are you doing it for your family, your children, or your husband?
Mm-hmm.
And how would you want it to turn out? And would you have any regret making the choice that you are thinking about?
Mm-hmm.
So, So, the women that I'm working with, so they do have support system, and they know that they need to do something about it to live the life that they want to live, to create the happiness and harmony and peace in their life. Otherwise, they're going to chase something that is not lasting and it's not worthwhile.
Right. And it sounds very much like you were a pioneer of sorts, because you were at the forefront of this, out in front of everyone as an Asian woman, saying, I want my life to be different. But there wasn't anyone else around who was doing that as well, that you could follow and feel that there were other people like you out there. Is that fair to say?
I would say that there are other women out there, similar like me, in similar cases. They have found their voice. They have stepped up and, create a life that they love. Some of them are even coaches. They are life coach. But none of them claim to serve Asian women.
I see.
None of them. Every time I ask them, you have been coaching a while. Why didn't you serve Asian women? Why didn't you serve Asian community? And they say, Kimchi, it's Asian. We only focus on making money. We are not focused on building a relationship.
Right.
And I say, I got that. But if there is no one who step up to say, hey, I'm here for you. I have been in your shoe before. I can help you. If there's no one like that, how would they know where to go?
Right. And how would they ever feel that they are not alone?
Yeah. That's the reason I say, okay, I'm gonna, stick it, stick the pole and say, I'm claiming this. I'm the first Asian woman or Asian coach to coach Asian women.
Right. Wow. Well, I think, and maybe this is a stretch, but I don't think it is, that your desire to help people has its origins in your beginnings in Vietnam. And if we could just shift our conversation a little at this point now in the conversation, can you take me back to when you were in Vietnam, and it was the 1970s, it was the Vietnam War, and the Americans were leaving, and there was the airlift, and there was the last airlift out, and the last of anyone who was leaving was going out on those helicopters. That's what we saw on the news here in the States. And you're still on the ground there, and you're still there for a few more years. Can you talk to me about how old you were, what you were experiencing at that time, and what happened that led you to leave Vietnam and come to the States?
Yes. So my family, my parents had several businesses. One a tailor shop, the other one is fabric store, and another hotel. So we live in a town which is about 2 hours drive from Saigon, which is the center of the South in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that the war, the communists has won the war in 1975,
mm-hmm.
and we said okay. So we are glad that the war is over, so that nobody got killed and things like that. But 1 year after that, the communist government, they attack all the wealthy family in in all cities, and the way they do it is they came to our house around 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
with guns, with like a troop of maybe 5 people,
mm-hmm.
guns, big guns, and just ask the head of the family to give them the safe and everything, and they let us out of the house, and they put us in a place which is a hotel. They took over the hotel, and they put every family in one room, and every night they will call the head of the family out and to ask where did we hire our gold and silver and money and things like that, and were we a spy for the American?
Wow.
So my mom suffered through that. My dad at that time, he came. It's luckily that 1 year, a few months, not 1 year, a few months before we got attacked by the communists, he came to visit my eldest brother in United States, right? So he came here to visit him, and then he here. Actually, okay. So my father came here before 1975.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so more than 1 year ago, more than 1 year before that.
Mm-hmm.
So he came here, and he saw the news, and he said, "Oh, most likely that we will lose." So he contacted my mom, I think by phone at that time. He says, "Sell everything, sell all the everything that we have, the house, the hotel, and whatever, sell and get out." And my mom say, "How can I do that? In Vietnam, we do business by cash. There's no credit card, nothing. And even the house that we own is all cash, right?"
Wow.
So my mom said, "Okay, I cannot do that. And I'm by myself, right? I have 8 children to support, and my parents and my younger brother's family to support them, right?" So she's the one who support everybody. So
Wow.
she have more than 20 employees to work for her. So yeah. Anyway, she could not sell that. But I think at that time it gave her some ideas that okay, she better do something with her money, her cash. So she saved some money, and she bought some gold bar, right? And then she hid it somewhere that nobody know.
Right.
Right. So luckily that even though we got kicked out of the house, A few years later, she managed to contact somebody and to get that gold out so that we can pay the communists so that they can let us out of the country by boat.
Wow. And how old were you at the time, Kimchi?
I was when I left Vietnam. I was 17.
Wow. And was this still in the 1970s?
Yeah, 1978.
Wow. And so
79, yeah.
was it your mother and all of your family, all of the children, everyone left at the same time?
Yep. Before that, my mom tried to get me out. Because I used to have asthma. Right, every single month I got asthma attack.
Wow.
So somebody say it's better to get Kimchi to United States so that the weather, the dry weather would help her with her asthma. So she won't have asthma anymore. So she got that. She said, okay, so she wanted to get me out and two of my brother out. But we got caught twice. We got caught by the communists twice. So my mom said, okay, no more, going separately. We will go at the same time, and live or die, we're going to do it together.
Right. And so here's your mother and your whole family, you and all of your siblings. What did you do? Just go to the seaport and get on a boat that had been arranged for you? How did your exit from the country actually work?
Yeah. So at that time, the communists, the Vietnamese communists, allow people who were Chinese with the Chinese origin. They are Chinese. Okay, to get out of the Vietnam country because they don't want. They did not want Chinese to live in Vietnam. So they had a program say, okay, whoever, if you are Chinese, you can apply to let go, to be out of the country. And here's the port. Yeah, the gate or something, the port that you can go. And of course, you had to take care of all your transportation. Most of the time would be just fishing boat, right?
Right.
And we have to pay the fee for that.
Right.
So my mom, she she bought a fake paper, okay, to make our name become like Chinese name.
Oh.
So all of us have Chinese name, yeah, and So we the communists said, okay, you can go, and we just get onto the fishing boat. I think
how many people were on the fishing boat?
It's less. It's around 80 people.
Wow. So this boat was not very large.
It's not very large. And I would say we stacked like sardine.
And how long were you on the boat?
We were on the boat for about 4 days. About 4 days. Floating. We got out of the south, and we were aiming to go to Thailand somewhere, and then it just happened that the engine no longer worked.
Oh my goodness! So you're out there in the ocean, and you're just floating, and you're stuck.
Floating. Yeah. And so we pray a lot on the religion on call. At that time, people who are Catholic, they pray to Jesus, Mother Teresa, and then we are Buddhists, we pray to Wan Yin. So we could keep praying, and luckily there was actually one time there was a Thai pirate.
Thai pirate.
Right, Thai pirate. They came to our boat and they were looking around, right? And our captain negotiated with them. Say, please leave us alone, and in exchange we give you some money and also a spare of the engine, the boat engine.
Mm-hmm.
And they accepted. So that's the reason that, none of the women got raped.
Wow.
So we were very, very lucky. So I always remember that. I say, my God, we are so fortunate to face the pirate, and we were untouched.
Mm-hmm.
And then, a day later, there was a German ship, a German cargo ship that just go by, and they noticed that, oh, wow, there's a small boat with a lot of people up here.
Mm-hmm.
And, they contact the Germany government, and the Germany say, yeah, they will rescue us. They will sponsor everybody on the boat. So
wow.
take care of that. And, they contact the Thai government, and, to have us landed there, to land there so that they can check our health before they can sponsor us to Germany.
Mm-hmm. And then what happened?
Yeah. So, we,
Did you end up going to Germany?
Yeah. So my mom said, okay, so there are two choices, right? One is not saying anything, and just go with, not saying anything, and we just go to Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Or say that, oh, our father is in United States, and wait at Thailand place, which is a camp, right?
Right.
And wait for him to sponsor us. And my mom made a decision to say, we're not saying anything, which is a very, very smart choice, by the way, because you never know. My father is just a visitor in United States, right? He doesn't have any power. How long would it take for him to sponsor somebody, his whole family,
right,
in Thailand to get into United States? So my mom made that decision, say, nope, we're not going to say anything, just go to Germany, and from that time we'll take care of it later on. So we went to Germany and stayed there for about 7 months. And then we were able to contact my father, and my father was able to take care of some paperwork and to get us to migrate to United States.
Wow. And the period after you left Vietnam and before you came to the U.S., how was that time for you and your family? And you were waiting. What were you doing while you were there?
We were learning German.
I see.
And, my mom had a sign, because they check our health, right? They make sure that we are healthy, and they check our health. And my mom's has a sign of TB. So they put the whole family with other families who has similar symptom they move us to a hospital, and they just take over the whole building. They give us rooms there, and every other day, the doctor will come and visit us and monitor our health, make sure that we are not contagious. And we don't spread any disease. And they also send German teacher to the hospital to teach us German.
Wow. And so that's how you spent your time before you came to the States.
Yeah.
And what was it like when you finally landed in the U.S. and you were reunited with your father?
Wow. It's really wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. And I told myself that we do have a second chance now.
And were you feeling at the point that you had left Vietnam that you didn't know if there was going to be a second chance?
Yeah, we hope, because we did not know what to expect.
Right.
Just hope that we will land it somewhere. I don't remember I thought that far. I just know that, okay, we're going to get out of here. No longer staying with the communists, no longer put up with this kind of policies and, the way that they do business here. And, I don't know. I don't remember what I think during that time. Whether I have high hope that I will land somewhere. I just hope, I remember I hope that somebody rescue us, but I don't know where we will land it, where we will be landed, and how will we survive in another country.
Right. And I would imagine it was hard to even think that far ahead when all you were trying to do was get out of Vietnam, right?
Yeah, because remember, we forged, we don't have the real paper.
Right.
So we were like scared. We said, I hope they don't recognize our face is a Vietnamese face, not the Chinese face.
Right, of course.
They don't call it out, because if they call it out, we'll be in dead meat. Like all my mom and my youngest sister, who is only 3 years old at that time. So it's like, no, it's yeah.
Wow. And so once you arrive in the U.S. and your family is reunited, you begin a new chapter in your life. And you also have to make the adjustment to being in the U.S., which at the time was probably unlike any other place in the world in terms of just the way that Americans are and the opportunities that were available to people, and the belief that is, the classic American belief that, if you dream it, you can make it happen. All of these things, you go from a place that is so oppressive, and then you come into a place that is the complete opposite. What was the adjustment like when you finally got to the States and you were reunited with your family and you start to settle in? You located in California, and what was life like for you from that point forward? Because now at this point, you've been in the West for 40 years.
Yeah. What I remember, because we have a big family, right? There's a lot of people, and my father could not support us. He was working as clothing for Mr. Big and Tall. That was his trade. Because in Vietnam we have a tailor shop, and he's like a master of tailor. So he makes suits for people, and my father learned some English, and that's why he had a lot of American customers.
Right.
So, he was able to support himself and find a place to live. And he's very conservative, very frugal in his spending, because he spent all the money, he invests all the money to buy a house for him to live. So when we came here, he say, I cannot support all of you, okay? So all of you have to go and ask for welfare. And so we did. And, this is something I want to share. I don't share with a lot of people. My father said, in order for you guys to receive welfare, there should not be a connection with me. So it seems like my mom, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah. So they had to basically get divorced so that
there's no paper anyway.
Right.
We can hear there's no marriage, nothing, no paper. So we filled out a paper that we don't have any person to support us.
Right.
So so all of us received welfare, and during that time, I was 18 years old. Yeah. So I went to night school to study English for a couple of months so that I can get into college. And my older sister, she studied for a couple of months, and then she said, I'm too old. I'm too old to go to college. And so she decided to learn something and work right away.
Mm-hmm. And so during the following years, everyone either went to school or started working. And the goal, I'm assuming, was that there just had to be enough money to support the family. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So my mom studied a little bit English, enough to, just enough to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom is my role model. She's not highly educated. She had only like a third grade education. But she's very smart, very smart. She know how to work with people. So, couple months, she applied to work for Intel as an assembler. And in the interview, my eldest brother, who was an accountant at that time, he came in with her as a translator. So here, the boss is a woman, is a Russian, I think Russian woman. She interviewed my mom, and then every single words, my brother has to translate to her, and then translate back in English. And for some reason, that boss just loved my mom to say, okay, you are hired, and on the spot.
Wow.
Right? I don't know what she saw, but of course, like a sincere woman, willing to work hard, and my mom just working very hard, and she's very, very good and loved by all of her co-workers, all of them, and she's very, very happy that she was able to support herself, support her family.
Wow.
And yeah. So we rent we rent 2 bedrooms apartment at that time, and 8 of us lived there.
Wow.
Somewhere in San Jose City College, near there.
Right. Wow. This is such an unbelievable story, and yet it is the story of your life and you. And I know from having met you in person that the way that you just described your mother and how people took to her and, everything that it was about her, you are absolutely a reflection of your mother, because I saw all of the people who were gravitating to you at the event where I met you. And there's no question that you are very much in the likeness of your mother in the most magnificent ways. And it's reflected in the rest of your story of, all of the jobs that you had and the success that you've had in your life. And I want to ask you if you feel that as a result of the events in your life of being uprooted from your home, going to a place where there was so much uncertainty, the journey being so uncertain, going to Germany, not knowing whether you're going to be reunited with your father, coming to the U.S., and then your father saying, in order for you to qualify for welfare, it's going to have to look like we are not a family. And the amount of emotional disruption, not to mention physical disruption. Do you think that all of those things contributed to your sense of who you are, and as you were going through your late teens into your 20s and 30s and 40s and so forth, in the way that you saw yourself, and that the cultural norms that existed in the world that you had grown up in and come from, that there were no more rules anymore because you had been living a life where there were no rules and you couldn't count on anything. You didn't know what was going to happen. And in a way, it actually created a new path for you that said, well, I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm just going to decide for myself what's going to happen, which has led to a place in your life where you have said, I will go and do these things. I will go and be this kind of person. and people may not like it. It may not be part of my culture, but it is who I am. Do you feel that those experiences shaped all of this for you, such that you are who you are today?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I see the way that my father treated my mom.
Mm-hmm.
In Vietnam, he doesn't treat her that way because in Vietnam, she has a lot of power,
Mm-hmm.
But when she came here, she doesn't speak much English. And so basically, she lost her power.
Mm-hmm. And you saw that happen.
And I saw that happen. I lost my respect for my father.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you said. I don't, sometimes I make the decision. I don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I say, hey, I survived. I had a second chance. What's the worst that can happen?
Well, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, you went through a living hell for a very long period of time. And the amount of uncertainty that you were living with, and no doubt fear, and the unknown, especially at such a young age, and all the circumstances that made up your life at that time. I mean, there is something really extraordinary about you in who you are, that you were able to manage that situation in the way that you did, and then made the move on into the rest of your life being on your terms, that you were going to get control of it. You were going to have the power. No one was going to tell you what to do. Because when you survive something like that, there is no one powerful enough they can't be more powerful than you. You are the one who is most powerful, because there's no way you come through something like that and are not magnificently powerful.
Thank you. But it's very interesting when I I look at myself and my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think the way I think.
I'm not surprised.
So it's not the experience itself,
Mm-hmm.
but it's how you see it.
What a great point. That you're absolutely spot on about that, because on the surface, it looks like one thing, but as you point out, everyone in your family was going through this, and yet you were the one who emerged with a completely different perspective on it. And with that being the case, why do you think you were so different from them that enabled you to have the perspective you did and do?
I think maybe it's deep root since I was young because of my sickness, right? My sickness, my parent normally they did not take me to, they did not take me around, or they did not take me along when they go on family vacation. Normally when we go on family vacation, we go to the beach. Mm-hmm. And where the beach are, the weather is very humid. And that would trigger my asthma.
Of course.
Right? And, maybe one time or twice, I had asthma attack, and the family have to cancel the vacation short, cut it short. Mm-hmm. And from that time, my mom said, okay, from now on, I'm not going to take kimchi, to the family vacation, because she's going to ruin the whole family vacation. Wow. So during those time, my mom sent me to stay in the village with my grandparent. Mm-hmm. And I remember that. And I think that maybe, I always thought that I am not wanted.
Of course.
So, with a thought like that, you will always try to prove yourself.
Yes,
that
of
you
course.
are worth it. You are worth something. Mm-hmm. And if you are worth something, then people will want you.
Right. And then I'm sure when the situation occurred, when you were reunited with your father, and then he said that you had to be apart, it's all part of this whole thing of feeling like you're not wanted. after that, all of what you went through to get there, and then that happens, it's just devastating. And, clearly something that stays with you, that stays with us for our whole life, and still very deeply painful, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know I am wanted.
Yes, you are. Absolutely. You've created a life for yourself that has proven that to you. And what I find so remarkable about you is, even with all of what you've experienced in your life, the challenge of the cultural norms and values that you have run into pretty much your whole life, that have, said you're not okay for the things that you want to go and do, and reinforcing things you don't want to do, and insisting that you do things you don't want to do because that's just how things are done. And you still said, no, I will do it my way. That you have really, truly been in your power throughout your life. And of course, there's a price to pay for that. But at the end of the day, you are truly free because you are in your power completely.
Yes.
And I can see how that transfers over and influences the coaching that you do. And I was thinking about what you were saying earlier when you were describing the coaching that you do. And I was thinking, your life lessons and what you have to share with people may be in your mind specific to Asian women, but I think that your life experience is relevant to every man and woman on this planet, about what it takes to survive, what it takes to decide what your next move is going to be, and what it takes to actually thrive and have a magnificent life, which is what you've created for yourself. It's really extraordinary. I mean, very few people will ever have a story like yours, and that you have turned that story into something that is now helping people to the extent that it is. I mean, this is the kind of legacy you leave. This is how people remember us. It's not the amount of money we made. It's not the job we had, but what mark did we leave on the people that we've come into contact with. And I know from the first moment I met you, there was something very different about you, and something uniquely special and very fine. And I'm just so thrilled to have met you, and am honored and feel it's been such a privilege to have you share with me and our listeners your story. I know it's been very painful and very emotional, and that's always a hard thing to do because it leaves you feeling so exposed. And yet in the telling of the story, the way it brings so much humanity to all of us is really, really a gift. And I thank you so much for that, Kimchi.
You are welcome, Arlene.
Well, this has been just the most unbelievable time that we've spent in this conversation. And what I always like to ask people who are on my show, given the experiences that they've had in life, and yours are very unknown to most people, when people think about the challenges that they're having in their life, and they're struggling and they don't know where to turn, and they don't know what their move is, and they've lost their perspective, if you were to share anything with them to give them perspective on how to look at their situation, how to decide what their next move is, what would those words be?
Those words would be, would you regret your decision, your choice 1 year from today?
That's so beautiful and succinct. I mean, it really does come down to that, because when you think about things in terms of regret, there's no escaping it. You have a choice and you make that choice. And if it's relative to regret and making sure you don't regret something, then you know what you need to do. And it sounds like that was something that drove you and has driven you through your whole life. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Has it been a motivating factor for you?
It is. At sometimes I make the decision that costs a lot of money, right? And don't see return. And then I'm facing another one, right? So, okay, there's another opportunity that cost me a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep asking myself, would I regret? This is an opportunity. I can say yes or no. Would I regret not moving it forward or moving forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would I regret if I don't move it forward? And if my answer is yes, I would regret it.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, okay, here's the card. Go ahead and charge it.
And you take the risk and you jump in.
Yeah. I say, money, you can make it.
Yeah.
You can make it again and you can find it again.
Mm-hmm.
But the experience is hard to find it again.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned a lesson too, is the relationship with the people you love is the utmost valuable thing, not the money.
Yeah, no question about it.
Yeah. And many, many times I have argument with my siblings, my husbands and, children and things like that. Before there's a question, say, do you rather to be right or be loved? Mm-hmm. And I would answer that question as I would rather to be right before, which is at least 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. But now I would say I'd rather to be loved than be right.
Mm-hmm. And how did you come to that conclusion?
Because I see so many relationships broken. People get divorced, children suicide because they could not talk to the parent. They could not share what they want with the parents. And the parents say, you have to do my way, things like that. Mm-hmm. And, it's so many heartache that I experience. And I say, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to prove that they are wrong. I'm right. Right. It's better to have harmony. It's better to let them know that, okay, everything is fine. I don't say that they are right. But, I will bend and I will say, I'm sorry if I hurt your feeling, or, I will be the one who initiate the apology every time. Right. And that helped me restore the relationship with the people that I love, that I treasure.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that is so beautiful. And, as I think about our entire conversation, what strikes me is that you really have come to a place where you are fully in your power and you have a voice and you're using that voice in the most magnificent way, and how you are benefiting so many other people. It's really, really extraordinary what you've done and where you've come to in your life. And let me ask you this final question. Where would you say you get your greatest joy from today in your life at this point?
I think I get the greatest joy in my life is to realize that I no longer have asthma.
Now that was not what I was expecting.
Yeah, I no longer suffering every month because, having asthma in Vietnam, when I grew up, I cannot control it.
Right.
Right. So, health is important for me. And it seems like right now I can do what I want and I am the one who control my life.
Right.
So without having asthma, there's no other thing that can control me.
Right. And what an amazing metaphor for where you're at in your life and where you've come from and the entire journey that you've been on, is that you're now at a place in your life where you can finally breathe easily.
Yep.
How magnificent. What a magnificent end to an incredible story, Kimchi. Holy cow. Oh my goodness. What an incredible time. Oh my gosh. For everyone who's listening to this really extraordinary story, I know that if people want to find you, they can find you at your website, which is rippleimpactcoaching.com. And on Facebook, it's at Ripple Impact. And on LinkedIn, it's at Kimchi Chow, Chow. And is there anywhere else people can find you if they want to reach out to you to find out more about you, or to possibly bring you aboard as someone who can help them on their own journey?
Yeah, I'm actually launching my podcast called Asian Women of Power.
Oh, beautiful.
Search for that podcast, Asian Women of Power.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, I'm bringing in all Asian women who are powerful in their own way. You will hear a lot of stories from people who are struggling in Asian culture, even though they are the first generation here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful, wonderful podcast for women to listen to, whether they are Asian or not. But the lessons are there. And yes, they can send me an email at she's spelled SHES .kimchi spelled KIMCHI @gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And if they'd like to book a free, a complimentary call with me, then they go to Ripple Impact Coaching.
Beautiful. Well, I'm so looking forward to your podcast. I know the stories there are going to be really incredible, and the journey that your guests will have been on throughout their lives that have brought them to where they are at this point in life. So, Kimchi, I thank you so very much. This has been an extraordinary time, and I am once again deeply honored and feel very privileged that you've been willing to share so much and so openly with me. It's deeply, deeply meaningful to me. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Arlene.
Beautiful. Well, as I wrap up every episode of What's Your Next Move, I ask you, our listeners, given where you're at in your life right now and the things that you're dealing with, what's your next move? I'm Arlene Battisil, and I'll be back with another episode. Welcome to What's Your Next Move, the podcast for peak performers who are making things happen but are running into roadblocks that prevent them from getting what they want. Whether you work for someone else, you're an entrepreneur, thinking about starting your own business, or at a point in your life where you just can't make the move from where you are to where you want to go, you're in the right place. This podcast is all about answering one question: what's your next move? And helping you harness your power so your next move is the one that changes your life. I'm your host and resident provocateur, Arlene Battisil, and I want to know, what's your next move?